It's midnight. Anna sits alone at her kitchen table, scrolling through her phone. Her friends' photos flash across the screen, smiling faces, couples holding hands, families gathered together. She forces a smile, but inside, there's an emptiness she can't explain. The strange part? She's loved by many, yet she feels invisible to herself. Isn't it ironic? We pour our hearts out for others. We check in on them, celebrate them, sacrifice for them. But when it comes to our own heart, we neglect, ignore, and sometimes even abandon it. Buddhism teaches something radical, almost shocking at first. You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. Think about that. Not after you've succeeded, not after someone validates you, but right now, in this very breath, you are worthy. The problem is, most of us live the opposite way. We chase approval, relationships, achievements, hoping they'll fill the silence within. But here's the paradox. The more you run after love out there, the more you lose the love in here. And without that, no amount of affection from the outside will ever feel enough. The Buddha's wisdom whispers a different truth. Real love doesn't start when someone else shows up. It begins the moment you decide to stop abandoning yourself. And here's the cliffhanger. What if the emptiness you've been fighting all along isn't a curse, but a calling, a signal that it's time to return home to the love within? Before we go deeper, pause for a moment. If this message is already touching something inside you, please support this journey. Hit follow, give this video a like, or share it with someone who might need these words. That small action is also a gift of compassion, helping spread a little more peace in a noisy world. Now, let's explore what it truly means to stop abandoning yourself and to love from the inside out. 1. The quiet betrayal of the soul. Michael was always the dependable one. At work, he stayed late to cover for his team. At home, he agreed to every request, no matter how exhausted he felt. To everyone around him, he was kind, generous, reliable. But inside, he was quietly breaking. Because here's the truth. Every time Michael said yes when his heart whispered no, a tiny crack formed within him. It didn't look dramatic. No one else noticed. But day after day, those cracks multiplied until he could no longer recognize the person staring back at him in the mirror. And isn't that something we've all felt? That silent ache after betraying ourselves? We smile on the outside, while deep down there's a voice screaming, "Why did you abandon me again?" The Buddha once taught, you can search the entire universe for someone more deserving of your love and affection than yourself, and you will not find that person anywhere. Yet how often do we act as if our own soul is the least deserving? This is the quiet betrayal, the one that doesn't come from others, but from within. The wound of ignoring our truth, of silencing our inner voice just to keep peace outside. Michael's story could be any of us. Think about the last time you agreed to something that drained your energy. Maybe you didn't want to disappoint someone. Maybe you thought it was the right thing to do. But afterward, how did it feel? Heavy. Empty. Like you had abandoned the most important relationship of all, the one with yourself. Here's the paradox. We fear saying no because we think it will create distance. But the real distance begins when we keep betraying ourselves. The more we suppress that inner no, the more we drift away from our own center. Buddhist wisdom invites us to choose a different path, to listen deeply, not with the ears, but with the heart. When the heart says no, it's not selfish, it's sacred. It's the voice of truth reminding you, this doesn't align with who you are. Imagine what changes if, like Michael, you begin honoring that voice. You say no, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. You protect your peace, the way you'd protect a child. And from that place, every yes you give becomes genuine, filled with real energy, real love. This isn't easy. It takes courage to disappoint others in order not to abandon yourself. But ask yourself this: who do you want to disappoint more, others for a moment or your own soul for a lifetime? The cracks within us don't heal by adding more pressure. They heal when we stop betraying ourselves, when we choose honesty, even if our voice shakes, when we remember that self-respect is the foundation of inner peace. So next time your heart whispers no, pause, breathe, and give yourself permission to honor it. Because the moment you stop betraying your soul, you begin to rebuild the trust within. And that trust, once restored, becomes your greatest strength. 2. The gentle armor of boundaries. Sarah had always been known as the helper. If a friend needed a ride, she was there. If her boss asked for extra hours, she stayed late without complaint. If her family needed support, she gave everything: time, money, energy. On the outside, people admired her generosity. But on the inside, Sarah felt like she was slowly disappearing. Her days blurred together in exhaustion. Her smile began to feel heavy, almost forced. And in the quiet moments before sleep, she wondered, when do I get to rest? When is it my turn to be cared for? This is the hidden danger of love without boundaries. It looks noble, but if left unchecked, it becomes self-destruction. Because love without balance drains the very well we need to draw from in order to keep loving. Buddhism teaches that compassion must first be rooted in wisdom. The Buddha reminded us that even a lamp cannot keep burning if it never receives more oil. In the same way, your heart cannot keep giving endlessly if you never protect its flame. For Sarah, the turning point came one evening when she missed her child's school performance. She had stayed late again for work that wasn't even her responsibility. When she walked into the empty living room, the silence was deafening. Her daughter's drawing sat on the table, a family on stage, but the mother's chair was empty. Tears filled Sarah's eyes. That moment, she realized, saying yes to everyone else had made her say no to the people who mattered most and to herself. Boundaries are not walls. They are gentle armor. They don't shut love out, they keep love alive. When you say, I cannot take this on today, it doesn't mean you're unkind. It means you're protecting the space where true kindness can continue to grow. The irony is, people like Sarah fear that setting boundaries will make them less loved. But the opposite is true. When you honor your limits, your yes regains its power. It becomes authentic, not forced. And people feel the difference. Think about it. Have you ever been around someone who says yes, but clearly resents it? That's not love, that's obligation. But when someone gives from a full heart, without resentment, you feel the warmth immediately. The Buddha's wisdom is simple here. Love with wisdom is sustainable. Love without wisdom burns out. So how do we practice this in daily life? Start small. The next time someone asks something of you, pause. Take a breath. Check in with your body. If your chest feels heavy, if your stomach tightens, that's your inner self whispering, this is too much right now. It's okay to listen. It's okay to say, not this time. Setting boundaries doesn't make you selfish. It makes your compassion stronger. Because only when you protect your flame can you keep lighting the path for others. Sarah's story is a reminder for all of us. Your peace is sacred. Protect it gently, like armor. Not to push love away, but to keep love alive for yourself and for everyone you truly care for. 3. The prison of comparison. Natu mangtenso-san. Have you ever noticed how quickly we measure ourselves against others? It happens almost automatically. A friend gets a promotion. Someone on social media buys a new house. Another person seems happier, more confident, more successful. And suddenly, we feel small. We feel behind. We feel like we're not enough. This is the invisible prison of comparison. It doesn't have bars made of steel, but it is just as real. Every time we compare ourselves to someone else, we step inside that prison, lock the door, and hand over the key. I remember a time in my own life when I couldn't stop comparing. I'd scroll through pictures of people traveling the world while I was sitting in my small apartment feeling stuck. Or I'd look at a colleague's achievements and wonder why my progress seemed slower. It felt like I was chasing a finish line that kept moving further away. Maybe you've felt the same way. That quiet voice inside whispering, "Why aren't you there yet? Why aren't you like them?" But here's the truth. Comparison steals joy. It blinds us to our own growth, and it makes us forget the unique beauty of our own journey. The Buddha once said, "Your own self is your master. Who else could be? With yourself well trained, you will find a master rare to find." This means that our real task is not to outshine anyone else, but to understand and cultivate our own nature. Think about the lotus flower. It does not bloom because another flower gave it permission. It does not need the sun to announce that it is beautiful. The lotus blooms because it was always meant to. And so do you. When we live in comparison, we are like a lotus trying to prove itself to a rose. We forget that each flower is perfect in its own way. The rose has its fragrance. The lotus has its strength to rise from the mud. Both are beautiful. Neither needs to compete. But the mind loves to compare. It tells us, "Look, they are ahead. You should be there too." And we believe it. We suffer. Here's the shift. Instead of comparing, try turning comparison into inspiration. If you see someone succeed, don't ask, "Why not me?" Ask instead, "What can I learn from them? How can this inspire me to grow in my own way?" This doesn't mean ignoring your goals. It means remembering that your pace is yours alone. Your path cannot be walked by anyone else. And your timing is not late, it is perfectly yours. When I stopped comparing myself, something surprising happened. I began to see progress where I once only saw failure. I noticed the little victories, like how I was calmer, how I treated others with more kindness, how I showed up even when it was hard. These may not look impressive on Instagram, but they changed my life. Comparison had blinded me to my own light. Letting it go allowed that light to shine again. So the next time you feel trapped in the prison of comparison, pause, breathe. Remind yourself, I don't need to be anyone else. My worth is not measured against another. I am already blooming in my own season. And remember the lotus. It doesn't rush. It doesn't compete. It simply rises from the mud and opens its petals to the sky. That's enough. And for you, to simply being who you are, growing at your pace, that is enough. Because the truth is, freedom begins when comparison ends. 4. The power of speaking kindly to yourself. Have you ever paid attention to the way you speak to yourself? Not out loud, but inside your own mind. That quiet voice that's always running in the background. The one that whispers when you wake up, when you make a mistake, or when you're standing in front of a mirror. For many of us, that voice is not kind. It criticizes. It compares. It says, you should have done better. You're not enough. You'll never get it right. And here's the thing, when we speak to ourselves this way day after day, it leaves scars no one else can see. It's like throwing stones into the garden of our heart. The more we do it, the harder it becomes for anything beautiful to grow. I know this because I used to live with that harsh voice. Every mistake felt like proof that I wasn't good enough. Every shortcoming became a reason to punish myself with more criticism. And the more I did that, the heavier life felt. It was like carrying a weight that no one else could see, but I could feel every moment. Maybe you felt that too. That inner weight, that exhausting cycle of self-blame. But here's the truth. The words you speak to yourself are powerful. They can destroy, or they can heal. They can plant weeds, or they can nurture flowers. The Buddha once taught, whatever words we utter should be chosen with care, for people will hear them and be influenced by them, for good or ill. And if this is true for the words we speak to others, how much more true is it for the words we speak to ourselves? When I finally began to notice my inner voice, I realized I had a choice. I didn't have to keep repeating the old patterns of self-criticism. I could learn to speak with kindness. At first, it felt strange, almost uncomfortable. Instead of saying, "You messed up again," I tried saying, "It's okay, mistakes happen, you're learning." Instead of looking in the mirror and pointing out flaws, I practiced saying, "I am enough, right here, right now." And slowly, something shifted. It was like pouring water on a dry seed. Confidence began to sprout. Hope began to grow. The garden of my heart started to bloom again. This isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's not about ignoring our growth or our mistakes. It's about choosing to guide ourselves with the same compassion we would offer a dear friend. Think about it. If someone you love came to you feeling broken or ashamed, would you criticize them harshly? Or would you remind them of their worth, their strength, their beauty? Why should it be any different with yourself? Speaking kindly to yourself doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong. Because when your inner voice becomes a source of support instead of a weapon, you begin to live from a place of peace. And here's a simple practice you can try. Each morning, before the rush of the day takes over, pause, put your hand on your heart, and say something kind to yourself. It could be, "I am enough," or "I am learning," "I am growing," or simply, "I choose peace today." Do this not once, but every day, and watch what happens. Your mind will soften, your heart will open, and the seeds of confidence and joy will take root. Because here's the secret. The way you speak to yourself shapes the way you experience the world. When your words are gentle, life feels lighter. When your words are kind, you carry a strength that no criticism can take away. So ask yourself, right now, what kind of garden am I planting inside? Stones and weeds of self-criticism? Or flowers of compassion and self-love? The choice is yours, and every word is a seed, so choose wisely. Choose kindness, because when you speak kindly to yourself, you water the roots of peace, and from there, everything else in your life begins to bloom. 5. Love without clinging. Yeu thung kong din mak. Let's talk about love. Not the kind we see in movies, filled with dramatic promises and endless holding on, but the kind of love that truly sets the heart free. For most of my life, I believed love meant holding tightly. The tighter I held, the safer it felt. I thought if I clung to someone, if I kept them close enough, I would never lose them. But here's what I discovered: clinging isn't love. It's fear. Fear of loss. Fear of being alone. Fear that without this person, I am not complete. And when love is tangled with fear, it begins to suffocate. It stops being a gift, and it turns into a cage. Maybe you've felt this too. That urge to hold on so tightly, to control, to make sure someone never drifts away. But the harder you cling, the more love slips through your fingers, like water you're trying to grasp too tightly. The Buddha once taught that attachment is the root of suffering, and nowhere is this more obvious than in love. When we confuse attachment with love, we create pain for ourselves and for those we care about. Think about a butterfly. If you trap it in your hands, it struggles, it suffers, and eventually it fades. But if you open your palm, it may fly away, or it may stay, resting gently on your hand, free, yet close. That is the nature of true love. It is light, it is gentle, it is free. I remember being in a relationship where I thought holding on tighter would save it. I was constantly worried, constantly afraid of losing that person. And the more I clung, the more distance grew between us. Until one day, I realized what I called love was really just fear in disguise. It was then I learned a truth that changed everything. Real love doesn't bind. It frees. To love without clinging means to love with open hands. To appreciate the presence of another without trying to own them. To share your heart without demanding that it be returned in the exact way you imagine. It means saying, I love you enough to let you be who you are. And when love comes from that place, it becomes something pure. It's no longer about filling a hole inside yourself. It's about two whole beings choosing to walk together, side by side, not chained, but free. This doesn't mean love is detached or cold. It doesn't mean we stop caring or stop giving. It means we release the grip of fear so that love can breathe. And here's the paradox. When you stop clinging, love becomes stronger. Because what remains is not built on control, but on trust. Not on fear, but on freedom. Imagine loving someone the way the sun loves the earth. The sun doesn't cling to the earth. It shines freely, generously, without demand. And because of that freedom, life blossoms. That's what love without clinging looks like. So, how can we practice this? Start small. Notice when your love feels heavy with fear or control. Ask yourself, am I holding too tightly? Am I loving from fear or from freedom? And then gently loosen your grip. Remind yourself, love grows best in open hands. When you practice loving this way, something incredible happens. You feel lighter. The people around you feel lighter. And love, instead of being a prison, becomes a space where both hearts can breathe and flourish. So ask yourself right now, am I clinging or am I loving? Because the answer to that question can change the way you experience every relationship in your life. Love is not possession. It is not control. It is not fear. Love is freedom. Love is trust. Love is letting go while still holding close in the heart. And when you learn to love without clinging, you discover that love doesn't shrink when you release it. It expands. It shines. It lasts. 6. When you stop chasing, life arrives. I want to share with you a story. There was a man named David. For years, he ran without stopping. Not literally running, but chasing love, chasing success, chasing recognition. He believed that if he worked harder, if he ran faster, if he reached further, he would finally catch happiness. But the truth? The more he chased, the further it slipped away. Like a shadow, always just beyond his reach. Maybe you've felt this too. That restless feeling inside that whispers, if I can just get this one thing, then I'll finally be at peace. But when you do get it, the peace doesn't last. does it? Soon there's something else to chase, another goal, another desire, another condition for happiness. The Buddha once compared this to drinking salty water. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. Chasing never satisfies. It only deepens the hunger. So what is the way out? It's not about giving up on life or refusing to try. It's about learning the power of stillness. Imagine a butterfly. If you run after it, it keeps flying away. But when you sit still, quietly, the butterfly may come and rest on your hand. Life works the same way. When you stop chasing desperately, when you relax your grip and soften your heart, what you've been longing for often comes naturally. I remember a time in my own life when I was chasing recognition. I thought that if I could just be seen, just be acknowledged, I would finally feel enough. But the more I tried to prove myself, the more invisible I felt. It was only when I let go, when I started living with trust, instead of fear, that opportunities began to flow toward me. Not because I was chasing, but because I was open. Here's the paradox. When you chase, you push life away. But when you stop, life has the space to arrive. Buddhism teaches the art of samasati, right mindfulness. It's the practice of coming back to this moment, fully, completely. Not racing into the future, not grasping at the next thing, but being here. And when you are here, you start to notice joy was never running away from you. It was waiting inside you all along. Think about it. A flower doesn't chase the bees. It simply blooms. And by blooming, it attracts all that it needs. The same is true for us. When we stop running after life and instead allow ourselves to bloom peacefully, naturally, life begins to meet us where we are. So, how do we practice this? First, notice when you're chasing. Notice when your mind says, "I'll be happy when," and gently smile at that thought. Second, pause. Take a breath. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Return to this moment. And third, trust. Trust that life has a rhythm of its own, that sometimes the things you long for will find their way to you without the chase. David eventually learned this lesson. One day, exhausted from all his striving, he sat under a tree and simply rested. And in that stillness he realized something powerful. What he had been chasing was never outside him. Peace, love, and joy had always been within. He just needed to stop running to feel them. Maybe that's the same invitation for you today. Stop chasing. Stop grasping. Let life come to you. Because when you finally pause, when you finally breathe, you'll see life was never far away. It was waiting quietly. 7. The sacredness of your own presence. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you treated yourself as sacred? Not in a selfish way, not in an arrogant way, but in the way you might step quietly into a temple, lowering your voice, feeling the reverence of that space. What if you are that temple? This is the lesson that Maya, a young woman I once knew, had to learn. Maya gave everything to others. Her time, her energy, her love. She thought that by constantly pouring herself out, people would value her. But instead, she felt invisible, drained, unappreciated. Her outer smile hid an inner exhaustion. One evening, she sat alone, feeling like she had nothing left to give. And then a thought came to her. What if I treated myself the way I treat what is holy? That question changed everything. You see, the Buddha taught that within each of us lies a treasure. This body, this mind, this heart, they are not accidents. They are precious. And when you begin to honor them as sacred, life begins to reflect that same reverence back to you. Think about it. Every word you speak to yourself, is like an offering at the altar. Is it harsh and critical, or is it kind and gentle? Every act of rest, every meal you choose, every breath you take, these can be rituals of love if you approach them with awareness. When Maya started making small changes, the world around her shifted. She began each morning with silence instead of scrolling through her phone. She took 5 minutes to breathe, to feel her heartbeat, to remind herself, I am worthy of care. She spoke to herself with kindness, even when she made mistakes. And slowly, the people around her began to treat her differently too. Not because she demanded it, but because she embodied it. This is the sacredness of your presence. When you honor yourself, the world learns to honor you. But here's the conflict many of us face. We've been taught to believe that self-care is selfish, that putting ourselves first means neglecting others. Yet the truth is the opposite. When your cup is empty, you cannot pour into others. But when your cup overflows, when you nurture your soul, love, compassion, and strength naturally spill into every relationship. The Buddha once said, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. Pause with that for a moment. You deserve your love. Not just sometimes, not only when you've achieved something, but every single day, simply because you are alive. So let me ask you, how would your life look if you treated every action as sacred? If taking a deep breath became a prayer? If resting at night was no longer guilt, but gratitude? If speaking kindly to yourself was as natural as speaking kindly to a child? You would begin to live with reverence. And that reverence would change everything. Here's a simple practice to begin. When you wake up tomorrow, place your hand on your heart before you do anything else. Feel its rhythm. Whisper quietly, thank you. That's it. A small sacred act that reminds you you are a temple worth honoring. Maya's life didn't transform overnight. But step by step, by honoring her presence, she discovered a new kind of strength. She no longer begged for recognition. She radiated it. And in that radiance, others found light too. So maybe today is the time for you to return to yourself, to walk into the temple of your own being, gently, reverently, gratefully. Because your presence is not ordinary, it is sacred. And when you live from that truth, the world can't help but bow in reflection. 8. The Test of Loneliness by Kiem Tra Mong Ten Ko Don. Let's talk about something most of us secretly fear. Loneliness. For many, being alone feels like a punishment. The silence is heavy. The hours stretch out. And without distractions, the mind begins to whisper, you're not enough. Nobody cares. You're forgotten. This was Daniel's struggle. He was successful in his career, surrounded by colleagues, friends, and family. But whenever the gatherings ended, whenever the noise stopped, and he found himself alone in his apartment, a deep emptiness crept in. He would turn on the television, scroll endlessly on his phone, or pour another drink, anything to escape that hollow feeling. The truth is, loneliness can feel like a test. We're doomed to fail. But in the wisdom of the Buddha, loneliness is not a curse. It is an invitation. The Buddha once said, if one really loves oneself, one will never harm another. But here's the deeper layer. If you truly love yourself, you will not harm yourself either. And one of the greatest ways we harm ourselves is by running away from our own company, refusing to sit with the person we've been with all along ourselves. When Daniel began his journey into meditation, he discovered something shocking. At first, sitting in silence was unbearable. Every second felt like a reminder of his emptiness. But gradually, with each breath, with each moment of stillness, he realized the silence was not empty at all. It was full of his own presence, full of peace that had always been there, just waiting for him to stop running. That's the paradox. When you resist loneliness, it feels like suffering. When you embrace it, it transforms into solitude, a space of freedom and renewal. Think about this. The ability to sit alone, without feeling hollow, is one of the most powerful forms of freedom. It means you are no longer dependent on constant noise, constant attention, or constant validation. It means you have found a friend within yourself. This doesn't mean withdrawing from the world. It means you no longer cling desperately to it. You can enjoy company deeply, and you can enjoy solitude deeply. Both become beautiful because both are choices, not prisons. Daniel's life slowly changed. He replaced his restless scrolling with mindful breathing. He replaced background noise with soft silence. And one evening, sitting alone with a candle lit in front of him, he whispered to himself, "I am enough." For the first time, he believed it. And from that place, his relationships improved. He no longer chased people for attention because he no longer felt empty inside. Here's the hard truth. Loneliness will always test us. It will knock on the door of your heart asking, will you run again or will you stay? And when you learn to really stay, you discover a deep, unshakable peace. So if you've been struggling with loneliness, here's something you can try. Tonight, instead of rushing to fill the silence, light a candle. Sit quietly for just 5 minutes. Place your hand on your heart. Notice your breath and whisper, "I am safe here. I am whole here. I am not alone because I am with myself." It may feel strange at first, but over time, that practice will transform loneliness into a teacher. It will show you that you are never truly abandoned. Because the most important presence, the one inside you, has always been there, waiting for your recognition. The test of loneliness is not meant to break you. It is meant to reveal your freedom. And when you pass it, you carry within you a peace so deep, so steady, that nothing outside can take it away. So the next time you feel alone, remember this: solitude is not emptiness. It is space. And in that space, your true self can finally breathe. Summary of key points and reflective lessons. So, let's pause for a moment and breathe together. We've walked through 8 profound truths today, each one like a lantern, lighting the path back to ourselves. First, we remembered not to betray the voice within. Your inner truth is not a burden to silence, but a compass to follow. When you honor it, you walk in alignment, and peace naturally follows. Second, we discovered the power of boundaries. Boundaries are not walls of rejection. They are sacred gates that protect your energy, while still allowing compassion to flow. Without them, kindness burns out. With them, kindness becomes infinite. Third, we entered the prison of comparison. Every time you measure your worth against someone else, you chain yourself to an illusion. Like the lotus, you bloom not because others approve, but because it is your nature to bloom. Fourth, we explored the quiet miracle of speaking kindly to yourself. Every word you whisper inward is a seed. Criticism plants thorns, but gentle, loving words plant gardens of resilience, confidence, and joy. Fifth, we untangled the knot of love and attachment. Love is not gripping tightly out of fear. Love is holding lightly with trust. True love offers freedom, not chains. Sixth, we discovered what happens when you stop chasing. Like a butterfly that lands on the still hand, life's blessings come when you rest in trust, not in desperation. When you pause, life arrives. Seventh, we touched the sacredness of your own presence. To treat yourself as a temple is not vanity, but reverence. Every act of rest, every act of care, is a prayer that honors the divine spark within you. And finally, the test of loneliness. What once felt like emptiness can become a sanctuary. When you sit with yourself in peace, you discover that you are never truly alone. Your own presence is enough. So what is the deeper lesson tying all of this together? It is this: self-love is not selfishness. It is the foundation of wisdom and compassion. When you truly honor yourself, you are not cutting yourself off from others. You are strengthening your capacity to love them, because love begins at the root within you. The Buddha taught that peace is not found by chasing or clinging, but by understanding. And when you understand yourself deeply, the world outside begins to shift as well. So let me ask you, which of these truths spoke to you most today? Was it the courage to stop comparing? The freedom of letting love breathe? The quiet strength of solitude? If you're thinking of someone who might need these words, perhaps a friend who's been struggling with self-doubt or loneliness, share this video with them. You never know how one gentle reminder can change someone's day or even their life. And if this message has touched you, I invite you to join this journey with us. You can like this video, leave a comment about which insight resonated most, and subscribe to Buddha Wisdom to keep walking this path together. Every lesson, every story, is another step toward a calmer, wiser, more compassionate life. Thank you, truly, for staying until the very end. Your time and your presence here are not small things, they are sacred. May you carry these lessons gently into your day. May you find peace in solitude, strength in truth, and freedom in love. And may you continue to bloom like the lotus, simply because that is who you are. Until we meet again, take care of your heart and know you are already enough.